Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Drawing on Fridays, the Landon Huber Experience Show. Today, what we're going to be drawing is this. Now, you may say, well, the drawing is already there. Yes, the drawing is there, but what we're going to be doing is fine-tuning it a little bit. And then I'm going to do something different with this one, where because the drawing to me is already pretty close to how I want it, I'm going to be sort of showing half and half the finishing of the drawing, with seeing me kind of fine tune this just a little bit more, and then I'm going to go ahead and show some of the inking process as well, because I think that would be interesting, and I don't know that I need a whole half hour to really finish up the pencil work here. So let's get started. Set timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, starting now.
And let's begin. Now, I don't want to go in here and start over detailing. All I want to do is fine tune what's already here. Right there, making that line a little bit thicker because it kind of pulls it forward. Thinner lines tend to recede, thicker lines tend to pull forward. But yeah, when I work, I tend to work around the whole picture, and I don't have a hard and fast method, because it's almost like the same way I've just been drawing my whole life. I've talked about this in another episode once, I think, but when I was a kid, my mom noticed that I used to draw differently than other people, because I would be doing a little here, then there, and I'd kind of go around the whole picture, whereas the way that other kids drew tended to be more, kind of focused in one area. And all I can say is that's just the way that I think. That's not to say I never get focused in one area, but especially when I'm laying down a picture, I for sure work all over rather than get too bogged down in a single area. But anyway, even when I was a kid, she noticed that. So, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I'd say probably about the first 15 minutes, you'll probably only see me refining this drawing for about 15 minutes, and then the next 15 minutes I'll be showing you different stages of the inking process. And then, last but not least, you will see the final inks. Now, I'm also a painter, so the question is, why if you're a painter, why are you doing these sort of line art, comic book style-ish drawings? And the answer is because I fell in love with that style when I was growing up, and I still love it. And the comic book style was I guess, created out of necessity originally due to speed and also due to the capability of the printers. But today, it's even though you don't have the kind of limitations with printers and such, it's still a style that a lot of people just enjoy. And so that's why people still do it, including me. Okay, I'm gonna switch to my mechanical pencil and just work on some of these details here for a little while. Refine it a little bit so that when I go in there inking away that I'm not making too many mistakes. For those of you that this is the first time watching, my name's Landon Huber. I'm an artist, an illustrator, and a musician. And although I have not been working on music a lot in the last few years, I have put out a few albums which you guys should definitely go check out. And rather than mentioning them all by name, which I have in previous episodes, I'm just gonna suggest you guys go check out. They're all on this YouTube channel. Check out all the playlists on this YouTube channel and you'll see the various things. These drawings that I'm working on are going to be sold on my Etsy store, which is landonhuberart.etsy.com, when they are all finished. And I already have quite a few listings over there of cool art in the Halloween genre. I almost said that kind of like a French guy. Le genre. Oui, oui. I'm not French. I was actually born in the United States in a place called Arizona, which, because I was born there, I guess that's my home. Man, but you know, what's funny as I'm working on this, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I shouldn't just do all the inking off camera. I might change my mind, because as I get into these little details, they're starting to take me a little bit longer than I originally thought they would. For those of you that have been tuning in every Friday to watch these episodes, I really appreciate that. And anybody that's enjoying watching these, I would sure appreciate. As all the hardworking people on YouTube ask, if you could just go click that like button. Maybe take 5 seconds to leave a little comment like, "Hey Landon, good job," or "Hey Landon, cool video." Got some skateboarders outside, people having some fun. And when it comes to art, at the end of the day, you know, it should be, you should be having fun, right? I mean, if you don't have any fun drawing, then I think that energy is going to be permanently encapsulated inside the art that you make. And one day you'll be known as the guy that created art that wasn't any fun. So it's important to have fun. That's all I'm doing right now. And now the more that you kind of know what you're doing, the more fun you can have. That's not to say that art isn't work, though. At the same time, it is work. But as the old Disney cartoon said, sometimes it's important to whistle while you work. Okay, right here on this, going to have a little bit of moss, and I got lines there, so I need to kind of erase around them a little bit so I can draw the moss in. And I hope I don't mess it up. Just a few little strands is all you need. You don't need to have 600,000 of them. Just I'm not 100% happy with the way I did that. Make one chunk that's a little bit bigger. Kind of do something like that. The circular shapes in there. Sometimes the tricky thing with art can be how to make the piece work as a whole, you know? Because it is about the relationship of the shapes and the detail and everything having to work together as a cohesive whole, which is another reason why, see, I feel that by me making that moss bright right there, it's working against the feeling. Even though I originally thought it would look good, it's working against the feeling of the light coming from the moon behind, which would cast most of this stuff in shadow. So a little bit on the end there, and that looks terrible, is okay. But then it should kind of get darker in there. But not too dark. With the way that I draw, I try to create movement with the line work and create a kind of balance between, I don't want it to be just totally thoughtless and messy, but I also want to maintain a certain sense of looseness so it's not too stiff. So when you tighten it, it can tend to start looking a little bit stiff. Where am I at time-wise now? I am at about 16 minutes left. So I would say I might just go ahead and go back to my original plan here of just start inking this bad boy. I don't want to overdo the pencils, and just for the sake of a YouTube video, because at the end of the day the art is more important. But I have been enjoying making these videos for you guys, so thanks for watching. Hopefully you're having a good Friday. If you happen to stumble on this video when it's not Friday, hopefully you're having a good day. Pretty soon here, I'm gonna jump to the inking. And because the inking is going to be kind of cutting a little bit, because I can't ink this whole thing in 15 minutes, I'm gonna kind of jump forward and kind of show you more of the process. I think I'm gonna do the audio for that not at the same time that I'm recording. I think that should work out okay. I don't want to do too much here. Just a little refining here and there. You got negative and positive shapes to work with. That's all you got in line art. See that? Just drew a little strand. And the only thing I'm going to do is draw a little bit of a line right here to indicate that strand. I don't want to draw too much. I'm already probably drawing too much. That's good enough. Cut in a few more negative areas here. What if those people outside know that they're being recorded right now? They might try to sue me. Some people walking by. That was my stroller in that video. I need $600,000 compensation. Alright guys, I think that's good enough for the pencils. Coming up next, I'm going to show you some of the inking stage. So, thanks for watching. Enjoy the inking right now. Alright, well here we are inking now. I had an accident happen on a previous episode. It was the one with the skeleton coming over the pumpkins. And even though on most of these episodes, the majority of them, I don't show the inking process, on that one, because of a mishap, because what happened was the camera stopped recording because I made a boo-boo and I forgot to clear my card before sticking it back in the camera, or And basically the card got full after about recording for about 7 minutes, so it didn't record the entire penciling process of that piece, which I was a little bit unhappy about, but such is life. These things happen. I should be more careful. But I think actually possibly a more interesting episode may have happened, because then you actually did get to see the inks and and on this one I'm actually doing it intentionally, because I think the pencils are good enough. I don't need to overdo them and ruin them. So yeah. I have to say that we got a couple of kids outside my door now. What are they talking about? Well, anyway, it is a cool thing when you're a kid. The world is like this magical place, and everything is just about discovery. I think it's important to actually preserve that attitude as much as you can. And trust me, at my age, I've certainly had days where the world looks pretty bleak, especially with everything that's been going on the last few years. But if you can maintain a sense of wonder, I think that's going to improve your life and your creativity. So David Lynch talks about how transcendental meditation helped him in his life, and so on, and by it helping him in his life, it did help him also with his creativity, because it helped eliminate some of his anger and negativity. And yeah, that's a good thing. Need some more ink here. I was going to say, I have a lot of different kinds of inking tools, but I always go back to the brush. Because it just has a versatility that I like. I don't have to sit here and struggle with it that much. I seem to be able to control the tool pretty well and get the look that I want. This is a number 1 Winsor & Newton Series 7, and this is probably my favorite brush right here. It gets me what I want. The size, the size of the bristles and stuff work for me. And although some of the bigger sizes you can still get a fine tip, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult. Because on the good side, they hold more ink. so you don't have to sort of stop and dip as often. But on the con side, because of the size of the brush, I find myself just a little bit more having to struggle a little bit with it. Whereas the size of this brush, because if I was using, like, they even get smaller than this, but the smaller ones literally just, they don't hold any ink, you know. But this is like a good size for me of, I can get the detail, I can get the size, and I just like working with it. So Winsor & Newton Series 7 number 1, guys. Good brush. See, it's a good thing, even for you digital artists out there. You know, try, you know, for fun, doing something traditionally, you know. Might have some fun. You don't have as much control as you do with digital tools, because you do not have the ability to, you know, endlessly erase. But that can be a good thing, because it forces you in the position where you have to make decisions. You're not making like all these sort of final important decisions later and later and later, you know. You have to, it forces you to make the decisions earlier. And that's actually good for you. It's the way that art was always made before the invention of computers for thousands of years. And, you know, the computer is definitely plays a big role in a lot of people's lives nowadays. And it's crazy to think about, just literally. I mean, you go back to the time when I was born. I was born into the world. The computer was invented, but it wasn't as sort of used by society as a whole that much when I was very young. It was used by businesses and corporations, but not a lot of people had sort of home computers when I was born into this world. And boy, that changed, didn't it? But then you think about all the things that have been created before the easy access to computers, and there's quite a lot. So, do we rely too much on computers? Something to think about, guys. I think we spend too much time on computers as a society now, but you know, I include myself in that problem. To do it quite a lot. So sorry if I'm sort of rambling. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys. I mean, this is kind of one of the reasons I don't intend to make hundreds and hundreds of shows, because I would rather attempt to pack a little more punch in a fewer amount of shows than sort of let things get too what's the word? Brain fart right now. Too watered down. That's the word. But I am gonna come out with. I do want to make a few more seasons. I don't know how many seasons I'll be able to make. My current goal is just to get through the first season, which, as I've mentioned before, will be 26 episodes. Now, I also have another thing that I do, which are these things called art process videos, which you should definitely check out because they're more edited, but they're cut in a way to be kind of dynamic and almost like a movie, where you see a whole piece of art come together. And I made 9 of those so far, but I'll put together a few more in the future when I have time. And you guys should check out those too. The art process videos of Landon Huber. You'll find it on YouTube. And I highly recommend you check those out. Check out the links in this video to find the links to my website and my online stores. And drop a like. I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you. There's somebody screaming in the background. I don't know if they're having fun or not, but it sounds like fun. Because when you're a kid, you like to go crazy and jump up and down on a tramp, and then you start screaming. Yeah, I could draw like an RIP or something in there, but I don't think I'm gonna do that on this grave here. Just gonna leave it blank. Kind of like in that movie. Oh, there's my timer. In that cool movie. It's kind of like in that cool movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where the grave was next to the money was spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it. I think a lot of people already have seen it, but it was the money was in the grave marked unknown right next to Art Stanton. I love that movie. Any of you kids who haven't seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, stop what you're doing right now and go watch it. It's only about 3 hours, but it'll be 3 hours of your time well spent. The way that they edited that movie to music is just amazing. But anyway, that about wraps up our time for this episode, guys. I sure appreciate you stopping by and watching. And coming up next, you will see the finished inks of this piece. Bye, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.